First two rows and like students are our teachers. No one sits at all. We have 21 people here, probably 19, maybe not 20, 21 people here who have been working diligently since October. What we'd like to do this evening is to go through a little bit about what the thought process has been over the last 8 months in regard to STEAM. I'd like to talk this evening, all of us will, little by little, so you're going to meet a lot of our teachers, a lot of our supervisors, our principal, our director, as well as our architects who are here this evening. We'd like to talk about are courses, we'd like to talk about programs, and ultimately we'd like to talk about possibilities. So, for those of you who don't know, for everybody presenting tonight, the right arrow moves it forward, the arrow on the left moves it back, and if you want to look like somebody has something going, you got to make a point, the pointer's right in the center, are we good? Okay. You've probably heard of STEM a lot. There is a difference between STEM and STEAM. STEM education integrates the concepts that are usually taught as separate subjects, so that's your science, your technology, your engineering, and your mathematics. Our presentation this evening really wants to focus in on STEAM, and that's the inclusion of the A for art, and the importance of that creativity, seeing it as being an essential part of innovation.
And now we do the pass off. Okay. Instruction is the heart of what we do, right? So the end result of a STEAM education are kids who take risks, thoughtful risks. They're doing experiential learning, they're problem solving, they're collaborating, and they're engaging in the creative process. And it's to develop 21st century learners. We've talked a lot about this over the past year and a half or so, and we talked about our technology goals as well. We talked about, there was a slide on many of our presentations from the Partnership for 21st Century Learning. We did not include it here. But they talk about creativity, collaboration, communication, and critical thinking. And that plays a part in STEAM as well. To fully realize these goals, this is what our kids need. They need integrated technology throughout all their learning spaces, interdisciplinary experiences that allow for blended learning, project and problem-based learning, and the ability to work in small groups where they can learn from and collaborate with each other. Our course offerings currently are great. Our teachers are great, but our facilities need to support our instructional goals. And they need to get our kids really ready for the college STEAM courses that they're going to take and careers in STEAM. So handing it over to JPP.
So one of the things we pride ourselves on at the high school is staying up to date with coursework. We look at what students are interested in. We look at what students are studying, what they've selected for college majors as they leave our school. These are the current courses that we offer at the high school. You see there's a wide range of courses. Some of these are very unique for our school. Mobile app design, you're not going to see that at most schools. Computer animation in our art department, robotics, engineering design, so forth and so on. So these are the courses we have currently. These are the courses for next year. The ones in orange are courses that we've revised. Okay, we revised for next year, or in the process of revising for next year. The courses in yellow, humanoid robotics, computer programming and design, and technology and engineering principles, are new courses that will be offered next year that students have selected for their course load next year. And the courses that are crossed out, we're getting rid of those courses or replacing them with a new course. Okay, so technology is ever changing. The reality is, if you go to most college campuses, I went to visit 4 with my daughter this fall and spring, and I was amazed. Every college campus, their big push is, this is our STEAM facility, this is our STEAM building, and this is where the jobs will be in the future. And part of our responsibility is to keep up with that. And I think we do a really good job. Our teachers are really great at accessing the information and taking on extra courses to learn some of this material in order to teach kids. So while we have an innovative curriculum, The reality is, I think we could certainly do a lot more with our coursework if we had the space. Because right now, anything that we're doing, robotics, or many of these courses are done in traditional classrooms. Everybody knows what a traditional classroom looks like. It hasn't really changed much. It's kind of the factory-style classroom. And so we're hoping, and part of what we looked at other schools, is if we can have a space, there are other things we can do. We're kind of limited now, even in some of the projects that we pick for kids to do, because we're limited on space and we're limited on art rooms. Who's up next? My buddy. You want me to hold him?
Introduce yourself, guys, if you
Will
will.
he go on? Or? It's better that than the robot.
All right.
My name is Kimberly Loesch. I am currently the AP Calculus AD, Intro to Java, and Mobile App Design teacher, and next year we'll be teaching computer programming and design, as well as humanoid robotics. This is my little pal Thunder. He will be assisting in the humanoid robotics next year, and thankfully to the MSF, we got a grant for 3 more. So we will have Lightning, Pride, and Spirit to join Thunder next year in class.
Maybe in the future.
Yes, I
Don't
would
want to
love
break
to
his
come
fingers.
back. I would love to come back in a future board meeting to show you what they can do, because they have automated programming in them, as well as what I would program them to do.
Along with, maybe your kids come back as well.
Yes.
With you?
We could totally bring them back. So I'm here to talk about the current robotics courses, as well as...
So
Why would you sit here like that?
I don't want him to break.
Sit him in your lap.
See, it's the difference between a mother and a father.
Sorry, Kim, you're
That's
right.
okay. The current robotics courses and the first robotics club. The first robotics club is being out of building 5, which we'll get to, and the current robotics courses are in a classroom that has a built-in closet to store everything that's needed. However, it's a closet that just kind of gets things have to be dismantled to be put in there. So in a 55-minute class, you open up the closet, the kids go in, get all their stuff, reset things back up before they can even start. And then they have to dismantle before they can end the class so they can go to their next period. So things are kind of not so put together right there, and we gotta have room for Thunder, Lightning, Pride, and Spirit to also go in there too. So we're working with what we can. This is in the classroom. You can kind of see we have 2 different courses going on we have at the same time. The advanced robotics is one period and the intro to robotics is another. So one is using the wood setup with their robot and one is using the tape on the ground with their robot. So with moving the desks in and out and constantly setting things up and going over, we're making the projects work, but we can do so much more with adequate space. So that way nobody's really running into anything, or we can devise, like I would love to devise a whole obstacle course, but there's only so much room that I can deal with around desks. The first robotics club is currently working out of this lovely space in building 5. This is where the group comes together to work on their competition robot. And you can kind of see this is where they're at. It's not inside the high school, so they're out there. And it's not really enticing to say, hey, who wants to come and join this? They're making it work. I mean, the kids always are hard at work, love going to the competitions. We would just like to have something more for them. And, you know, even in the robotics classroom, the robots are stored away. So you walk in and you think you're having math class. Not many kids, unless they're actually in the program, knows that robotics even exists in that classroom. So like, there's really nowhere for them to show Thunder or any of the Vex robotics that's going on, or even the competition robot, which is awesome to see if you've ever seen that in action. I was part of that club when I started here 12 years ago, and I love going to the competitions and just seeing that energy that the kids have. It would be nice to make it bigger for Mahwah, because they do so well.
You're even seated in the right. It's really cool. They do, very good one.
You got it. Hi everyone, I'm Taryn Pisa. I'm one of the visual arts teachers. I teach Art 1, which is our foundation level arts course. I teach AP 3D design, which is our senior sculpture course. And I also teach interior and structural design, which I'm going to talk to you a little bit about.
Hello, I'm Rich Heisler, and I teach currently 3 out of the 4 classes that were crossed up. I'm a little worried. I'll go through the things tonight. So that would be drafting, engineering mechanics, engineering design, and woodworking. But the thing is that those 3 courses that are getting crossed off are getting combined into technology and engineering principles next year.
So you still have a job.
So I first just want to say that our program, our visual arts and industrial arts, we sort of at certain points commingle into one sort of makeshift department, but we really enjoy what we do, and we have really tried to build this community of students that are really proud of the arts. If you saw our recent art show, you can tell that. So what we're here to talk about is the space we're currently working in. So we're out in Building 7, so also out, not in the mainland. And in this space is all of our wood shop, and then also drafting and graphic design, interior and structural design, computer modeling, and animation. This is our current storage out there. So part of this is in a hallway, this area right here, this area over here, for supplies. So we have this one little set of wire shelves, and then we have some of my glue guns that are on top of some of Dan Gordon and Rich's wood projects. So not very efficient. But again, we do with what we can. This here is a bookshelf that's in the computer lab room, which we're going to talk a little bit about. And you can see there are student scale model projects that are stored on top of a filing cabinet. So again, we are trying to think about the things that we're talking about in STEAM and think about what architecture students and interior design students are expected to do at college level, which is to make scale models, and which is to create interior design boards, and which is to do all these things, but we don't really have the adequate studio space into which this could happen. So this is our current classroom, and Rich is going to follow up a little bit about this, but as you can see, the desks are in rows with computers, and the teacher desk is sort of in the back. So we're constantly doing this shuffle back and forth, and as Christine mentioned earlier, STEAM education is really important for collaboration. So by the students being in rows, they're looking at the back of each other's heads, and there's not really adequate space for them to be working with each other. So we would ideally like a space in which it's more movable, it's more interactive, and they're able to work together as a team and collaborate.
You want to talk about the futon?
That's also in the hallway.
That futon was very, very cool.
Yeah, that is great.
And you look at it, and it, first of all, is well crafted. But then the thinking that had to go into the mechanism so that the pieces slid into the sidebars and could fold out and then fold back up was quite amazing. There was a lot of thinking.
Yeah, there was a lot of engineering in that project alone. And the next problem is getting it home.
Are they bringing it to my house?
Well, there's a truck out there.
Is that a band student project?
Before you go on, before you go on, Scott Vandermeer, are you taking notes of what they need?
Okay, so this is, just to play off of what Taryn said, this is the computer lab here. And they are just computers in a row. And I didn't even just do that on purpose, but I just called it a computer lab. And that's kind of what it's set up as, where individuals work independently on their computer and only their computer, because there isn't room for anything else really. There isn't room for collaboration except with the students alongside you on either side. And on the desk, even if you were going to attempt to sketch something up, you have to put your keyboard up on top of the computer. Okay. So it's great for using computers, but not for the future plan of our classes. Storage, big issue. It lacks storage and security. If you're going to store, we bought 3D printers, and there wasn't really a place to store them or to put them out to use. They were being put out next to computers and then used off those computers, which could have been used for a student as well. So it lacks that as well. And as Taryn said, the students are facing the front of the room and you're in the back of the room. So just the opposite of this, as if I was talking from behind. And then we just have the projector on the front. So it's great for that, but for the STEAM classes where you do collaborate and you do a design and then a build, it's not ideal for that. Okay? And then I'll go over to the next classroom, which is, this is a new classroom. This was set up about 3 years ago. And Taryn teaches in this classroom, I teach in this classroom, and Dan Gordon, the Apple guy, teaches in that.
The Apple guy.
He teaches in this class as well. And this is on, there's the one classroom, a hallway, the wood shop, and then this classroom. And me and Taryn go between the two classes. So we're walking through Dan's class.
Let's go, watch out for the wood.
And then back the other way. So the classroom by itself isn't so bad, except for maybe just a single chalkboard on the front of the room. It's not so bad, but it's separated. And we do a design and a build process. So those would be, it'd be nicer if the two of them were combined into one classroom. And a lot of schools have a setup where there is a design room and then a build room, and they're sometimes separated by a glass. So you can see your students working while other students are working inside the other classroom. This also was storage, so electrically it's not properly set up for the things that we would like to do and for the tools that we would like to use. So it's a little tight for that as well. Let's see what other pictures we got. These are some of the students working. I didn't realize how big high school students are, and they really take up a lot of space. And this is about 12 kids inside the class, and it gets cramped. And then you got the projects on top of that. And here's more students working. And on to the next.
And you're done?
Thank you. All right, so my name is Mr. Galvez. I teach physics at Mahwah, and since last year I've also been teaching the STEM research class. I was actually super excited at first. I was told I was going to teach STEM. That was nice. I was told I was going to be in room 142 in pretty much my own room. That was really good. And then I started to get some projects going on. I'm only a tech teacher, so I need to figure out so this is the classroom. As soon as I started working, I started to realize that the classroom, which was actually a chem and bio lab, was not necessarily, did not have a lot of storage space. We can see on the top over there, on the top of the cabinet, is where all the windmills started to grow, and then they had to go away. We can see in the corner over there are the 3D printers, which are stored there. There's no plug there to use them, so I have to move them to a lab table here when we want the student to use them. There is over there a little wind tunnel that students have constructed, so students have to build their own. It's a research class. They have to come up with their own project, their own. They build everything from scratch. They do their research. They do their test, and we have to store sometimes some small project and sometimes some much bigger ones. The other thing for that space is the counters over there. What you cannot see is my engineering skills are put to the test regularly. It's kind of a puzzle, but down there, everything fits pretty much snugly, but I have to figure out exactly how to put it every time. And I think the next, so those are the same pictures, just from different angles. And finally, this is the space where I'm storing the fans that are used for the windmills. some physics equipment, the famous leaf blower over there, which came from my house to do a overcraft, and some foam that a student had been using for his project, and some projects that kids for housing and renewable energies. So once again, I think that the theme is pretty much the same. It would be a lot better to have the room to actually put the project, to have the projects have to be flexible. It's not, they come in all, like the students, in all shapes and sizes, and it's just a lot of work to figure out how to make everything work in there. So, and I think on the next one.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mimi Lazansky. I'm the supervisor of Visual and Performing Arts, and today I would like to talk about student art and how and where we display it. If anyone, did anybody go to our art show this past Friday? It was amazing, right? So, if you were down in the hallway there, you could see that we have bulletin boards, and this is the current space we have to display the art. We have a couple of bulletin boards downstairs, and then we have the display cases upstairs in the main lobby. Our students' work is, we have work that's way beyond those bulletin boards and those display cases. Right now, our space is limited to those display cases, and as we all know, our students create work that is much larger and much more proliferous than what can fit in those display cases. So again, we're limited by size and space. We would also like to display industrial arts work. Whatever other projects come out of our engineering classes deserve a space to be displayed. We want to celebrate the work that our students are creating. Secondly, we feel that a gallery would be much more professional and would be much more conducive to even produce higher quality work. And our dream would be for our upper level students to participate in a type of an internship as curators, so they can manage and set up and
Break
I said
down.
manage, yeah, and break down, break up, curate these galleries. So it'll be a great life skill, something that we can take forward, and I think it would be an incredible addition to our facilities.
Hey, we talked earlier about the school buildings being built for an older, kind of more traditional factory model of education, traditional classrooms. And when they were built, no thought was given whatsoever to professional development for adults. And that's huge and that's key. We hire great teachers, and we need to do professional development to keep them moving forward in all the new things that are coming along in their subject areas. So staff professional development and spaces for that is important to us. So here's how we do it currently. We put adults in classrooms for kids, oftentimes if it's happening during the school day, moving kids elsewhere. Which becomes kind of a logistical nightmare for us. We only have those certain staff days during the school year, but we do a lot of staff development on other days. So we have to call John Pascal and need that double classroom. Move those kids out. He goes, okay, I will. And wherever else we put staff, often in kid-sized desks, which is not comfortable for a full day of staff development. So this, I think, was at the middle school. This is the middle school all-purpose room, one screen, lots of tables, the entire Ridge faculty on a staff development day. Sitting together and collaborating, but hard to see on the one screen what was going on. They had to follow along. This was one of our teachers. This is Mike Doris leading a staff development in a high school classroom. Again, teachers sitting at student desks, doing the best they can with the facilities that they have.
So, as John had said before when we just started, what you just saw is we've got a lot of really great programs. And it's real clear that we've got really great instructors who want to do a really great job at what it is that they do. But what they seem to be lacking is the space in which to do it that's conducive to the program that they're teaching. So what we did is, is we put together a district STEAM committee, many of whom you've met already. There are 21 people on this committee. We've got certainly our principal, our assistant superintendent. We've got our teachers who are here tonight. We have Carlos, our director of technology. We have our board facility committee as well, whom we've met with, as well as our architects. We invited a new addition who's not been part of it yet, but soon will be, and that's Sue DeVito. She's our new supervisor of technology integration. Would you stand up and wave, please, like everybody else? All right, we're good. And we also invited, second column, third man down, is Joshua Cohen. He is the Chief Innovation Officer for the New Jersey Department of Education and has been with us for a couple of meetings as well. And what we wanted was the state perspective, as he has the opportunity to visit a lot of schools that are out there. We put together, within this big committee, we put together some subcommittees, because like with anything, you've got to start right in little compartments. We put together a committee to look at some of our courses. You saw that in the beginning of our presentation. We put together a committee to look at equipment. What kinds of things are we looking for? Movable tables, movable chairs, what kind of electricity? What are we looking for? And we put together certainly a facilities committee to review what kind of facility could house what it is that we needed and also where we would eventually put that if we ever did. We started back in October. We had an initial discussion and we reviewed some of our courses and the qualities of those courses. On November 3rd, we brought in our NJDOE Innovation Officer and said, what's going on out there? What are schools doing that you have visited that could perhaps help us see what it is we don't have and maybe what it is that we would like to have? On November 14th, we conducted STEAM building site visitations. We took a little yellow school bus from Mahwah and we went out and spent the day visiting 3 schools, and we're going to talk to you about that. On November 17th, we came back, and we did it real quickly after those site visitations. The whole team came back, and we talked about the pros and cons. What similar things did we see? What did we see that we didn't like? What would make sense for Mahwah? Because although something may make sense for another district, doesn't mean that it's right for us. We're very unique when it comes to all that we do, and certainly to this. On December 7th, we reviewed a mission statement idea. Why? Because we wanted an overarching idea of what it was we were looking to do. We wanted the big picture before we funneled it down. And on December 20th, we held a 3.5 hour meeting here. We invited our whole team, we invited the facilities committee, we spent time walking the property of the high school, we spent time in Building 7 looking at some of our courses. We spent time looking at what we learned with our board facility committee everywhere else so we could bring them up to speed with what it is that we were up to. On May 10th, we sat down again, I did, with the board facilities committee and said, okay, here's everything that we've done, put it all together in kind of a presentation, and we'd really like the opportunity, we said to the facility committee, Kyle and I, can we do this publicly? Can we now talk to the full board, because we've vested months and months with our teachers and our administrators to get to a point where we think we have something. It's not this, we dreamed it up yesterday and came to you today. It was months in the process. So showing you that timeline just explains that we just didn't think of it yesterday. May 14th, we met with our architect. They are here with us this evening. They'll actually end our presentation tonight. Because it's one thing to come up with a dream, it's another thing to determine with our architect whether or not it could be a reality. And why bother bringing something publicly if there was no way it could possibly happen? So our architects are here this evening. They'll talk to you a little bit about what they've learned, because that meeting on December 20th, they were here for it, and they worked with the teams. So I'm going to turn this over to Dennis Jarvis, our new science supervisor, who's going to talk to you about the site visitations and what we saw, and a lot of it's done pictorially, so hopefully that'll help.
Good evening. I wanted to actually ask specifically to speak to this because I am the science supervisor, so obviously I have a vested interest in a new STEAM building. But I'm also a Mount Olive resident. So what we did is we looked at the Mount Olive School District and the Mill, which is the Marauder Innovation and Learning Lab. I've been to the Mill a number of different times on STEAM visitation nights that the district has run at the high school, the middle school, and all 3 of the grade schools. So I've gone, quite a few times, also with my daughters with their science fairs. It's a great source of inspiration. Stealing or borrowing ideas, however you want to phrase it. But it's the facility speaks for itself, but I really wanted to speak to how it's affected the community as a whole, being a resident there. one of the things, that I got from this is really, this is a showpiece for the district. This is the crown jewel of the district. Curriculum development is based off of everything STEAM. Technology is upgraded because of this building. It's even kind of whittled its way down to our town-wide recreation programs, where you have, on any given night during the year, adult co-ed volleyball going on with Lego robotics in the room right next to it. And trust me, that hands down is way more popular than the co-ed volleyball. It sells out all the time. The district also runs STEAM summer camps, and again, they are every year ultra competitive to get into. They sell out all throughout the summer. So it's a great kind of just a driving force behind everything that they do in the district, even down to the grade school where my kids are. They're redesigning the libraries to be open space, this flexible space concept. My daughter's school is actually, they're calling it Central Park. So they're getting rid of all the stacks, they're getting rid of all the walls, and it's just an idea of having these kids there, kind of a common, comfortable place where they can relax and they can exchange ideas. And I think that's a great part of this. I have had the pleasure of speaking to a lot of the students who are part of the robotics program, the STEAM program, the teachers who are there. I know a lot of the teachers being a resident there. They absolutely love the space. They think it's a great space for the kids. My daughters absolutely love the space. When I mentioned to them that we were talking about doing a STEAM building and my daddy wasn't going to be home tonight, they were super pumped for Bring Your Daughter to Work Day. They really wanted to do it. So even though I told them it was going to be like 5 o'clock in the morning, they had to get up. So, but for me as a science guy, obviously, I love the idea, but I think for me it just truly represents what science is. It's about problem solving, it's about creativity, expressing ideas, and having the freedom and the space to do that. Mount Olive had a huge advantage over us. They had an empty gymnasium that they weren't using. They called it the pit. That's where all their old furniture went. They got to retrofit that. We don't have that. We need this building. We need the space. And like I said, the space, speaks for itself. It's colorful, it's inviting, it's warm. It is just a great space for the kids to be there. The kids love being there. They just hang out there in their free time, and that's what it's all about.
You'll notice the wheels on the tables there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. And ample storage space for Mr. Calves.
There you go. Excellent job.
So I'd like to turn it over to Mrs. Pullman.
Oh,
sorry.
You can sit on my lap. Can you give thunder to Rick Silva? You can sit with him. Sure. So I'm Danielle Polway, the math supervisor, and I went along on the site visits. It was a very interesting day, and everything that Dennis just really talked about, we really, as we went to the different sites, this is at a different part of their STEAM building, because it's really not just one building over there. And in Mount Olive, they have many different facets. There is a building that they call the mill, where the mill is, and then there's other parts that belong to their whole STEAM program. If you notice this guy right here.
Me?
Red button.
Oh, it's upside down. I don't have my glasses on. It's a foot. They're on top of your head. This guy right here, he's really admiring this space, which is the PD space.
Huge.
It's huge. When we walked in there, and just being the PD lover that I am, I was like salivating over this space because we could really get a lot of amazing training with our teachers done here without interrupting students.
And we were really talking about what this could look like. So we were talking about different configurations, where screens would go. We were just imagining with each other what this would look like in district. Not only for teacher PD, but collaboration amongst classes, because really a big piece of this is the cross-curricular piece also. So that the S isn't just the S, but the S will also work with A. Does that make sense?
Well said.
Oh, thank you.
That's why he's the man of the words. Science work with the arts. You should really give him the robot.
Don't give him the robot.
No robot. So you'll notice that I'm very excited about this room. I'm taking pictures. This is the robotics room, and in this room, you'll notice there's not carpet on the floor, which means that Thunder and his buddies, and is one a girl? I don't even know. They're all boys, right? They're all boys.
We gotta change that.
Women didn't talk about that.
Women in STEM, that's very important, so that's a.
But as you can see, we have a court on the floor, which could be a court or it could be a field, and these robots are not just fun to look at, but the whole idea with the robot is to provide coding for all, and to have coding accessible to any level of learner in all of our communities of learners. So Kim's been really babysitting very nicely for Thunder, and her son RJ has done a nice job even trying to program through choreograph, through working with Kim. So it's really an amazing opportunity to have this robotics opportunity for all sorts of learners in a space like this, where we wouldn't have to clean up the game and the obstacle course and let kids really experience what they need.
And to go back to Kim's point, having that open space would allow for something like an obstacle course and coding for that,
Right.
which would be nice.
And again, no desks. There's a table there. The chairs do have casters on the bottom. That table does not, but everything is easily movable to get out of the way. The next school that we went to was down in Morristown, and this was a little bit of a different space. What we took away from here was a lot of flexible furniture, things that could get moved, a lot of collaborative space, and what I like the best about this, which really fits in nicely with technology and collaborating with technology, is if you notice with here, and this just looks, I just went on some college, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I just went on college visits with my son, and all of the schools so far that we've seen, the four that we've seen, they all look like this.
Yep.
The students have this opportunity to collaborate, take their laptop, plug in, and collaborate with each other. And there's these displays that are in the front where it's not, you're not just here at your own screen, but you're collaborating with each other.
So like what Rich was saying with, every student at a desktop, and while they're supposed to be collaborating, they're smushed. Here, it really allows for ample space, and because of the movable furniture, more students can be added into the group.
Those chairs were very comfortable, by the way.
Yes, they were.
This is just that space from a different angle, but you can see how big this space really is.
Yep.
And in the middle there, there was this space where it almost looked like, they had the high chairs, and it almost had that cafe feel to it. Very appealing and, very inviting for students to just kind of be up and about and walking around and working with each other.
So by this
Not stuck in that traditional classroom.
Yeah, so by this point of our visits, we started to see pieces of Mount Olive and pieces of Morristown High School and how that could look for Mahwah.
And here's another PD room.
And here, the open space, this particular classroom has that glass divider if you needed to design separate spaces.
This is the other side where they just had different look to flexible furniture, different arrangements. And then we got to Dwight Eisenhower.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
The $1 Million Baby. We said, we'll take one of those.
Yes.
It's a $20 million baby.
Yep.
Yes. Well, I didn't want to say that. And this is what the building looks like from the outside with all of that beautiful glass, which makes for all of that natural light with the high ceilings. Very university feel to it. This is a modern science lab with very big lab tables. Again, those high chairs, movable spaces. What was so cool about this, and again reflected in the university experience that I've had with my son so far, is that it's not just a whiteboard, but we have another slide, but over on the other side of this whiteboard are the walls for the students to do their brainstorming and their collaborating with those whiteboard pens and leave it there. So it's like a beautiful mind right on the wall. We were excited about that.
And we were also excited because the goal here is, we keep talking about the classrooms, the goal is to make the entire space a learning environment. So our vision is for students to be working outside of the classroom in the hallways, in the open space, as well as inside of the space. So inside were glass walls or partitions where students were writing and they were doing their formulas. But we envisioned something like students working on the outside. We're hoping that classes that are near each other can, work cross-curricularly in that common area as well.
Which leads to this beautiful space right here.
Yes.
They use their space very magically. This is the stairs that go up the stairs, and if you notice there's this monitor here. So not only are these stairs, but it has that feel that you're in New York City and you're in Times Square, and there's that stage right there, and that's basically what that looks like. But underneath there this is all the robotic storage. And notice that it's not just a closet in the back of a room that you shut the door, and it was what we saw before, but it's inviting. And students are now working here. They could be robotic students, they could be other students working from other classes, but they're seeing what's going on here and saying, hey, I want to be involved in that.
And we started having those conversations of, with
Talk to
the
the kids.
with the high ceilings, you know, talking about the arts. And we were talking about not just having those traditional cases to showcase student work, but we have students working on 3D modeling. We have students working on things that are digital. So we were thinking about flat screen TVs and showcasing all that our students do and not just the traditional stuff.
Here's just a different angle of that robotics storage there and the students that were actually working on the other side. Very, you know, very university feel to it, but these are college students, and we walked by, we talked with those students, and they were working on their coursework. They were not, you know, on Instagram or Facebook on their computers. They were doing their projects. We talked to them about their projects. It was really cool. Here's a different flexible space for them, for collaboration, for working. And over here, pushing the wrong button, this is where, in this space in Dwight Englewood, they had all of the math and science supervisors actually in one room, which was really neat for collaboration with the teachers. Thank you, guys.
So what we learned from looking at all of these schools and what we know from the research is that everything is connected in terms of curriculum, but also in space. So when you look at Mr. Calvez's science lab, okay, with all that stuff in there he has for that one course, the reality is in all of the rooms that the teachers talked about, you're teaching the course, you know, time block 1, you have to clean up, pack up, because then that room's used by somebody else. You may be coming in to do social studies, somebody else may be coming in to do a biology class, and so other kids who are not in the class really don't get to see what's going on, okay? What I like about the buildings that we looked at and the spaces that we looked at is that learning was taking place all over the place. So as Mrs. Polway showed you, the robotics, while you can see the robotics equipment, you know, at times during the day, you know, those doors were open, kids were working on the robot, out in an open hallway. We're not talking about a hallway like a traditional hallway, we're talking about a much wider space, you know. So they're using the space well for that. And what I like about that is whoever's walking through the building, moving through the building can see what kids are doing and what the opportunities are, okay? And then clearly, everything that we do in the classroom really in the 21st century happens by doing. So all of our STEAM courses that we currently have are all hands-on, project-based, and research-type courses, and difficult to do in some of the space that we have. So after looking at all of these places, we kind of said, well, what do we really need for Mahwah? What would be helpful for us as a community, for the district K-12, and for the high school in particular for the STEAM programs. And so we need a space, obviously, for robotics. Building 5, if you went to the room, you would just cringe, okay? And our first robotics team works out of there because there, frankly, is nowhere else for them to be. But we need some place for our humanoid robotics course, okay? So we need a space for that. We need a laboratory type space, and when I say laboratory space, I would like you to think of kind of what is in a science lab, but in a much bigger area, similar to an area big like a library, not as big as our library, but an open space like you saw at Mount Olive, where kids can work, you can move furniture, you can do a whole bunch of things in there. It'll enable us also to teach the technology and engineering principles, okay? So right now, Mr. Heisler is teaching, he's going to be teaching this course next year. The room he's using is a room, what used to be our old metal shop, which we gutted, got rid of all that stuff. He built those tables, okay? So he would have tables in there and for kids to work. So hopefully the technology and engineering principles, which is our foundation course, our introductory course, can be in that space, in the open think tank space. You've heard a lot about maker spaces in schools. Right now we've started on a small scale taking a piece of our library to do that. This will allow us to really do appropriate STEAM projects that any kid can participate in, either at lunch or after school, not necessarily during a class. We certainly do need a room for professional development. We don't have a space in the district. The reality is we're moving kids out in order to get teachers to move in. And then Mimi talked about the gallery, particularly for our larger projects. So if you came to the art show that we had Friday and Saturday, teachers and kids, and this was our 4th year. So the kids who were freshmen are now seniors, and they've been working with their teachers over the course of 4 years. Okay? And when we started this the first year, I don't want to tell you how much time it took to put the art up. Okay? They have it down to, these kids were just phenomenal. They put up over 700 pieces of work. Okay? But there's no place for us to put the furniture that we're making. There's no place for us to put the 3-dimensional projects. And so a gallery to display that would be helpful, and as well as storage, because storage is always a major issue for us.
Before you click, if you would, John, I'd like to introduce to everybody our district's architects, Mike Milliman and Rick Tokarski. Hi, Mike. Hi, Rick. I don't know who's talking. Rick, you're going to hang back. Mike is here. Mike, welcome. I don't know if you want to do anything preliminary before we do a conceptual design.
Thank you, Dr. Schoen. Thank you, members of the board. Mike Millman, Tokarski Mellon Architects, my partner, Rick Tokarski is there. We came up with something that we've been involved in the process, and it's very exciting for us to be here. What a tremendous amount of energy, thought, great dialogue. I haven't seen this on a project of this type for a long time. It's refreshing, and it's nice to get this feedback. For us, it's so important to understand what you don't have and what you would like, what you need to develop as part of your curriculum. And then what we do is we take all of that information and we start molding it. So after the meeting, after a closed meeting on December 20th,
Right, it was freezing that day, right?
we walked around and we saw some of the spaces we saw pictures of, and then we started to walk through the site to see if there were opportunities where we could site this building, thinking about the students going between the buildings, right? This great campus layout we have here in northern New Jersey. But anyway, we talked about, is there a way to connect Building 7 back to the main high school with any kind of cover or building itself. So we took all of this information that was gathered, and for us, we call that the program. Here's some of the things that it could be. Right, it could be a lot of things, but we know it's heading in a certain direction. And we take that information, and we had a friendly competition in-house. So think of it like one of those cooking shows with Sharpies and tracing paper. And so after that, we met again, and we talked about some of the concepts, what it could be. And so again, this is very conceptual. To the right here, this is the cafeteria in Building 7. Cafeteria in the high school. And then over here is Building 7. So what we were trying to do was, we take a look at it we step back and we look at the entire site. We think about the approach to the building. So you're coming up the drive up to the building back here, and what you're going to see. And then also what the program is going to be. So as Principal Pascal mentioned, the old 750 square foot room is no longer adequate for what the curriculums are, especially a STEAM curriculum is trying to achieve. And we've been calling this thing, and it's mentioned a few times in the paperwork, the Thunderbird think tank, right? T-Cube. So we literally just took a cube and said, this is a great place, a great opportunity, very visual. It's the intersection of the sidewalk that comes from the south, and then it intersects with the walkway or this pathway between the high school and Building 7. So if you stand at that location, it's very visible from all different directions. So we wanted it as a beacon almost. You're here, and it leads to the rest of the program here. And again, we haven't nailed down the sizes of the rooms or exactly what's going where, but we kind of shaped or molded this figure to see what our thoughts are always, how do people move through the spaces? How do they get to, or what are they seeing? So we're a few steps ahead of this model in terms of where our thoughts are, but what we need to do is kind of just show something. It's sort of abstract, but in our minds it gets more concrete as we get more information. So just real quickly to go through, this is just a covered walk that comes out of the high school and kind of meanders over to the entry into the link, the addition, the new piece of building here, the new building. And so the higher piece here, I always envisioned that as that's where the main program is going to be. That's where your thinker spaces are going to be. And we have ideas, and they're drawn on paper, on sketch paper, about movable walls, flexible furniture. I can change the size of the room by opening a wall up. I can lift the wall up if I need to into the ceiling space. Lots of light. And then this other piece right here that sits in front of it is, I've always envisioned that as a living corridor. So we take all of the art that our students create, whether it's in the wood shop or an art program, and we create this large, call it corridor. I call it the living museum, almost like a walk-through museum. And you can show all of that artwork here with some light coming in above it. It's the southern exposure. It's going to get a lot of light during the morning, and then we can celebrate that. So it's a very visible space. It's not tucked in a corner somewhere. We were over at Building 7 today, and there's great pieces of woodwork that the students do over there, but they're kind of shoved in the corner there, and you don't get to see them. I saw a couple of guys picking up a piece and putting it into a van this morning. I don't know if it was going home or going to a show somewhere.
They're stealing it.
And then as we link into Building 7 here, that could legitimately be an art gallery. I'm putting installations in there, and then the students can again curate. And we envision lots of light coming into this thing, and then at night that blue cube glows. And when you have events at night, that's where everyone knows where the action is.
That's going to be all glass, right, Mike?
It's going to be, we haven't determined exactly yet what it's constructed of, but our idea is it lets a lot of light in and out. So whether it's glass or polycarbonate, something that can diffuse the light a little bit, that has yet to be discussed.
If I can jump in, Mike, one of the reasons that Mike referenced T-cubed is when we went to Mount Olive, and Dennis alluded to this, they call it the mill. They branded that space. So as the kids were walking in the hallway, they said, oh, I'm on my way to the mill. And the mill is a Marauder Innovation Learning Lab, so they called it the mill. And we love that because we could have used the mill here and said it was the Mahwah Innovation Learning Lab. But we decided we didn't want to steal that, so we started talking and thinking about what we could do, and we came up with the Thunderbird think tank. And then we moved to T-cubed, which we thought, wouldn't that be cool if we branded a space that the kids knew was connected but separate. It was a different learning environment in a different space. So when Mike and Rick came up with this, what I thought was really neat, if you haven't seen it already, is yeah, we've got the cube, and yeah, we should do some blue, but we also have the T. And that was kind of secondary, right? T for the Thunderbirds, but it kind of worked out visually. As a preliminary shot, because this is the first thing that you said, this is a possibility, but we got to talk about it. But I thought that was a neat idea.
Sure. So again, and just quickly talking about, okay, we have this living corridor here, and then I'm always envisioning that maybe that's a couple of steps higher than floor area where the robotics, the robot battles can take place in the middle, and the students are walking, you know, getting between classes. And then beyond that, you have glass looking into the classes where other collaboration is taking place. So there's, you know, we kind of layer the pieces together, and again, these are all conceptual. If this comes to fruition, that's fantastic. But you know, we develop these things and ideas as we move along, and so that talks about, you know, what now, what happens. So right now, if the project does move forward, what we do is we come out and we survey. So we have all documents that show where the locations of the building are. We want to make sure that they are 100% right where they are. So we do surveying of the buildings, the topography, and then also the buildings that we're touching up against. And then we take the plans to a little bit more refined state, where we start laying out how much space does this function need, how much storage do we really need. You know, that seems to be a huge concern. So it's very important to collect all of those ideas right at the very beginning, and then present them back. And it goes back and forth. So we talk a little bit about IT, Carlos, once in a while, and then we talk about mechanical systems, and we start getting into some other pieces that are all part of the main project. And then we meet and we talk about the elevations and site plans, and then we put together budgetary construction cost estimates, and then this is planned to take place between July and September. So all the activity is planned to happen this summer and early fall.
Super, Mike, thank you. And last but not least, it's the last slide, I promise you. The team, during the middle of the process, came together with a mission statement, because we wanted to make sure that everything we were doing was guided by what we believed in. And what we came up with as a team was the Thunderbird think tank, like Mahwah itself, is the meeting place, blending science, technology, engineering, and art and mathematics in an innovative way that empowers our students to research, to design, to engage, to collaborate, and to ultimately build visionary ideas and each other. T-Cubed, preparing tomorrow's global thinker today. That is the end of our presentation. It's the longest presentation we've probably done here, but I've got to say, on a personal note, it is our hope as an administrative team and a STEAM team, right, that we can move forward. But you have put in an incredible amount of work that you were passionate about, and we're looking forward to and excited. And when we decided to take a little bit of a break midway, right, when I would see you, you would say, can we talk about this again? Things need to be generated not from the board and not necessarily from central office administration, but by all of you who do what it is you do every day. Your excitement is because you want more for our kids. And on behalf of the board, I want to thank you for taking time out of your evening to do this. You did a great job. Thunder must be tired. She's tired. And all of you have families, so to the wonderful STEAM team here, thank you, and please go home. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With mommy. He's happy.
Can I get out?
Okay.
No reward this evening.
Mr. Fair.
Just one piece, 16E, we're recommending Mr. Joseph Montana. I know him because he's here in the audience. Hi, Joe. That's Joe excited.
Hi, Joe.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, my report this evening. Okay, there was a Bourbon County School Boards Association meeting on Wednesday, May 31st, in which our very own board member, Pete Wendrikowitz, was recognized for 28 years of service to our district as a member of the Mahwah Board of Education. So thanks and congratulations to Pete on his many years of service. It's a very interesting and highly informative
informative documentary, Screenagers, was presented by the Mahwah Parent Academy on June 7th. Both Ms. Christine Zimmerman and Ms. Joan Stewart helped moderate the evening's discussion after the film. Because this is such an important and timely topic, the Parent Academy plans to screen the documentary again next school year for both parents and students. And thank you, Christine, very much. This past Sunday, on behalf of the Mahwah Board of Education, I had the honor to present certificates of appreciation to 5 young men from Mahwah who were awarded the rank of Eagle Scout at a Boy Scout Court of Honor ceremony that took place at Mahwah High School. So congratulations to Michael Delcher, Stephen Rand, Ryan Murphy, Vincent Gata, and Vinay Morthy on their accomplishments. Proud Mama. Tomorrow evening's Spring Sports Awards will take place at Mahwah High School Auditorium at 7 p.m. So congrats to all those receiving awards and best of luck in their future endeavors. And we look forward to celebrating the promotion of our 8th graders from Ramapo Ridge this coming Monday, and the graduation of our high school seniors on Tuesday as they turn the page in this chapter of their lives and open another as they embark on an exciting new journey. Our thoughts and prayers and best wishes are with all of you. And then lastly, I'd like to say thank you to our Mahwah High School seniors for their donation of a beautiful tree that was planted in the memory of Nicholas Lauerwald and dedicated during a touching ceremony last week. Our sincerest gratitude go out to Mr. Pascal and our administration for presenting an honorary diploma in Nick's name to the Lauerwald family. It's times like this that remind us of how precious life is and how blessed we are to live in such a loving and supportive community. So thank you to you all. And that is my report for this evening. Do we have any reports from committees? Anything? Nothing? Okay, good. Everyone's like, we're going to get out of here. Okay. Any board members' remarks, additional comments, anything? Nope. Okay, good. Okay, old business. Good motion to old business. Dr. Marthy, Mr. Silva, I got it right? We have no old business. No old business. Okay, I'd like to take new business, A through double J. Any movement? Mr. Griffiths, Monica seconds it. Any discussion? Comments, remarks? Everybody's good to go? Okay, would you please say?
Mr. Wendrikowitz.
Yes on everything, and I have to abstain from check number 86680.
Thank you. Mr. De Silva.
Yes.
Mr. Denise.
Yes.
Mr. Gallo.
Yes, except I'm abstaining on checks 086472, 086558, and 08661.
Thank you. Mr. Kizmarski.
Yes.
Ms. Conoco.
Yes.
Ms. Navratich.
Yes.
Dr. Morthy.
Yes.
And Ms. Barron.
Yes. Okay, I'd like to take 16A through Z. I have a motion to proceed. Mr. Kuzmarski, second by Ms. Denise. Thank you. Any comments, remarks, questions? Any board members? Are we good to go? All good to go? Okay.
Mr. Wendrikowitz.
Yes.
Mr. De Silva.
Yes.
Mr. Denise.
Yes.
Mr. Gallo.
Yes.
Mr. Kizmarski.
Yes.
Ms. Conoco.
Yes.
Ms. Navratich.
Yeah.
Dr. Morthy.
Yes.
And Ms. Barron.
Yes. Public questions or comments. This section of public participation will be limited to 15 minutes.
Slot Barrel 43, Bedford Place. Just a couple of questions about looking at this new design facility. One is, as far as the professional development space, and I've suggested this and stated this before about revamping the auditorium to utilize it for distance learning. It could be utilized for professional development. Most of the auditoriums I go into have little flip-up desks. You can have outlets to plug in your laptop computers. Most of the training that's done in the outside business world is done via WebEx or computer-based. A lot of training is not done where people physically get together anymore. So I think that would be a good thing for our kids to experience. And I think having that technology and, revamping the auditorium to include that. And then if we had that new structure attached to the back of the auditorium, we could have the gallery go along, so when people are coming to the auditorium to different events, they could see all this wonderful work. It's not all the way in the back in another separate hallway. I know that the rooms behind the auditorium are also rather small for the chorus and for the strings, and the space back there. Make additional storage there also and build out to Building 7. So that is, I'd like you to all take that into consideration when thinking about these plans, because I think that would be a better move in the long-term scheme of things than to attach back by the cafeteria.
Thank you, Mrs. Slocker.
Thank you.
Very nice, thank you.
Two quick things. First of all, Brooke Gaslow, first Lenape Meadows HSO representative. From what we're being told, Lenape Meadows is going to 4 kindergarten classes next year as of now. Is this correct?
It is.
Okay. I know that right now they currently have 90 children enrolled in kindergarten as of this morning. That puts 22 to 23 children in a kindergarten class. I know the kindergarten teachers at Lenape, and I know they are special and fabulous. However, putting this many small bodies, some of them into school for the first time, some of them with greater needs, is really asking a teacher too much, especially with what is being expected at such a young age and when trying to differentiate instruction. Not to mention, Lenape Meadows generally gets registrations of between 8 and 10 students over the summer on average. A 25-child class, even with a para, is really too much. I know as a speech therapist and working on something very focused, when I have to take a group of 4 children to my room, I don't get nearly as much accomplished as when I take 2 or even 3. For that reason, I ask you to reconsider keeping 5 kindergarten teachers at Lenape Meadows so those new little children don't suffer, and the teachers don't suffer from stress and burnout of an excess amount of children in their class, making it difficult to teach.
Okay, 2 things. Kindergarten teachers at Lenape Meadows are fabulous, and you are absolutely right. And secondly, we never want kids to be able to suffer. We are monitoring the enrollments in all 3 of our elementary schools. We continue to do that every single day. And when it reaches a point where we believe that kids will not get the education that Mahwah students deserve, we will absolutely open up another section. So when your first question was, are we still at 4? The answer is yes. Betsy Ross, too, is getting very close to the numbers that you talk about. We consider it and talk about kindergarten numbers every day. I recall my first year here, for those board members with me, we opened up a new kindergarten section in August because the numbers really went up. Lenape does sometimes get a big insurgence, right, of kindergarten students coming in. We're totally and completely aware of that, Mrs. Gaslow, and we promise you we'll do right by kids.
Okay.
Okay?
The second thing is from me, 552 Adirondack Court. On another note, I am here as a parent who is sadly leaving Lenape Meadows after 6 years. I just want you to know what a wonderful group of teachers and staff you have there. We have never had a teacher we have been disappointed in or upset by. They have gone out of their way for my children in ways I could never have imagined. I want to thank them and you for employing such an outstanding team.
That is the type of comment
Thank
we
you.
love to hear. Ms. Dorsett, any of this?
Hello. Hello. Sue Dorsett, MEA President. I just had a question about the construction. Is that going to displace the current daycare that a lot of the Mahwah teachers use?
That's a really great question, and we haven't gotten to that yet, but I can preliminarily say, probably not. You know, the whole point is we're only in the discussion stages of this at this point, and that would be sitting down with the architect, who I believe has a long ride home, so he left. But it is not our intent to have upheaval with the YMCA program, nor is it our intent to have any upheaval with the courses in Building 7. There was consideration and talk as to whether or not building a second floor on Building 7 would be best, but we wouldn't be able to move those industrial arts components somewhere else. So we're keeping both. I'm giving you a comprehensive answer. We're keeping all of that in mind. So our intent is not for this to say, oh my gosh, where are our kids going to go? perhaps there'll be another route for the kids to have to be dropped off, but we'll figure it out.
Okay.
We'll figure it out, because I know that's super important to our staff.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
And just one other, so we don't have a preliminary budget or anything like that?
No.
It's gonna be July?
No, actually, if we play along the potential, I'm sorry, Mike.
In the fall.
Yeah, in the fall. You know, we'll get some understanding this summer along with the board and our committee, and then we'll come back in the fall, and we'll talk about what that potentially could look like, because if we're still in conceptual designs, we're not in a definitive place right now. Do you know what I mean? I couldn't say it's got this price tag on it yet. It's just kind of talking about it and showing the need. We just believe it's a thoughtful way to approach building something new in our district.
Thank you.
You're welcome,
Thank you,
Sue. Mr. Butel?
Hello, Andy Butel, MEA Vice President. First, forgive my informal attire, it was field day today at the Ridge.
Yes, it was, but the weather was okay, though.
It was much better than the last 2 days.
Got that right.
If you'll allow me, I'd like to read a statement on behalf of the MEA. So a few weeks ago, an issue came up at the high school and was addressed at the last board meeting regarding the assignment of the Toni Morrison book, The Bluest Eye, as part of the 10th grade honors English class. And we understand that there was some parent criticism over the use of this book, the assignment of this book, specifically regarding a few pages that contain some particularly graphic content. So the MEA just wants to kind of make it known a few things. First, we obviously support the right of parents to be involved and speak out regarding their children's education. Parents who oppose the book made arguments that have been made by parents in school districts across the country. The book is undoubtedly controversial as it addresses these themes including racism, incest, etc. That said, we were very pleased to learn that ultimately the board's instructional committee decided to keep the book in place. The MEA believes strongly that public school is a space where students should be exposed to new ideas and perspectives and engage in critical and at times controversial discussions. Part of the mission in public education is to help young people become informed and active citizens in our diverse and democratic society, and this happens, we believe, through exposure to books such as these. As a principal, we reject attempts at censorship and feel strongly about maintaining academic freedom and teacher autonomy. Teachers and administrators work collaboratively to develop rigorous and appropriate curricula based on their professional expertise, and we believe this work must be protected. So we applaud the efforts of the administration, particularly Mr. Fair, Dr. Schoen, as well as the board, to work through this issue in a thoughtful and deliberate manner and reach, as we believe, the correct decision in the end. The MEA felt it was important for this board to hear from our association on an issue, frankly, not related to the contract. As educators, and the last time I spoke was in December, and that was a pretty heated meeting. No, we're moving forward. As educators, we're passionate about teaching and learning, and it's really, sometimes that's clouded in light of everything that's going on. But we care deeply about the long-term success of this district. We're hopeful that we can move into next year collaboratively, finding common ground, working together. And as an aside, it was really nice to hear the really kind comments about the retirees. I think that was a really nice gesture on the part of the board and the administration. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.